Here's my first attempt at trying to do a voiceover on a time lapse. If it turns out literal garbage, can you please give me feedback on what to help? Because I'm trying to make a video that I would enjoy. And one that you would enjoy, hopefully. But this is close enough, right? Right. So if you could tell me what to fix or change in the future on these, then I would greatly appreciate that so I can help make a better video. Yay! Alright, so here I'm sketching and I did the head first. I almost always do the head first, and I'm just trying to get a base sketch of the character out. Here I'm trying to make like a concept art of this character I made in this game called Dragon Nest. She's the customizable character, and I just wanted to make her an actual OC and draw a concept art of her. So in case I wanted to commission someone or get someone to do an art trade of her, I'd have a more readable reference than just an in-game model, because it's kind of like PS2 era graphics. Yeah, so as you could see, I'm usually pretty loose with my sketches. I don't really care too much about getting the perfect edge. I just really want to focus on getting the shape there, and then I'll worry about the cleaning up the edges later. That's almost all my painting is, just cleaning up my filthy sketches. And here, as you can see, I just wanted to readjust the head and make sure that it was more proportionate to the body, at least in my eyes. And as you saw, I just used a red overlay for the layer because I wanted to make sure that I could see it separate from my base sketch in case I needed to erase something under my base sketch. I'm going to do it again with this hand here. And basically that's so I know what to erase underneath, and it's just a lot easier to read rather than making a black sketch and trying to find black underneath black. And just cleaning up a little bit of edges, trying to make sure that everything looks roundish, I suppose. If I can catch an anatomical error in the sketch, I will most likely fix it. If I don't catch it till later, then whatever, I'll fix it then too. I just try to make sure that the sketch is as anatomically accurate as possible just to save myself the work later. And here you can see that I resized the document to make it pretty bigger. Pretty bigger, that's great. To resize it so that I would be able to zoom in more and get more detail done. Because I don't care if the sketch gets a little bit pixelated, because as aforementioned, it's just all rendering for me. Now, when I ever flat something that's supposed to be black, I always use like a light gray instead so I can see it apart from the sketch. It's just really hard trying to paint black when there's black lines, because then you're like, where's my shape? I don't know where I put it. And then, see, if I forgot to sketch something, like the top of that legging there, I'll just make up for it in the flats again. I really just sort of, just speed through the sketch and the flats process just so I can get to the painting, because that's where all the work is. And for things like fur, I will almost always try to do the, like you saw just now, I got an airbrush and I shaded the ears, and I'm gonna shade the tail with the airbrush because to show a gradient basically. Now I'm just trying to do like as you can see for the glove, I wasn't really too worried about the mechanical parts because I just sort of flatted it in roughly, because in my reference she has like a knuckle, she has all these complicated parts. So I just decided, you know what, I'll do that later for painting. And I tried to make it look like the gauntlet was like clenching its fist, I suppose. And just now I got a multiply layer and just airbrushed in some shadows and merged it. Now I'm cleaning up the face, just getting the eyes a little more hard-edged, getting rid of the sketch basically. Putting in the red on the skin. I absolutely hate it when someone's trying to shade skin and then they put in like this deep, ugly, desaturated brown. It's like, no. No, people got blood in them, buddy. People got blood in them. Or at least, I hope so. Oh my. And now I'm doing highlights like on the nose, in the corner of the eye, top of the lip. That's where I personally like seeing lots of really high contrasted reflections. It's just a preference, I suppose. Cleaning up where the pupil goes, and just trying to fix any anatomy errors, really. Now I'm putting highlights on everywhere else. I just usually just try to get a base shading for everything as I go along. Now I'm doing rim light so that it's, I love rim light. I abuse the crap out of rim light. So I usually try to put in every painting. And then here I was doing highlights on the legs just by getting a lighter color of what it was and just brushing over it real fast. Now the program that I'm using for my reference is called PureRef, and it's free and I recommend it because in Photoshop, if you want to have a full screen mode, you can't have two documents open and laying on top of each other, or maybe you can and I'm just stupid and don't know how to fix it. But yeah, that's why I like PureRef, and it's just easy to use. I wholly recommend using it if you need reference a lot. And just, as aforementioned, just cleaning up. Here I'm rendering the hair because look at how sketchy and messy that hair was. Just getting the edges, erasing them as I go. And what I did earlier with the face is I just got like a deep red and I just brushed over it because it wasn't contrasted enough, the shadow. I almost always try to focus a ton on contrast. Contrast is super important to me. That's why I have that black to white gradient layer. And I flicker it on and off so much is so I can just check my contrast. So, because if it's low contrast, I won't... My eyes are drawn to really high contrast things, so I try to make a lot of my art really high contrast. It's just a really beautiful looking lighting situation to me. I love deep dark shadows and bright highlights, so I always try to make it like that. Remember, if it does not look... If the contrast in the lighting does not look good in black and white, it will not look good in color, so I just use that constantly to check. Make sure that my darks aren't too dark, etc. And cleaning up the feet. I think most of this one's just clean up, and then after that it's shading. Because it's just a full body. Oh, and here I did the background. Like, since it's concept art, I mean, I never do backgrounds, but since it's concept art, I wanted to do like the black to white gradient. Not black to white gradient, gray to white gradient, so that I could get a focus on the character with just a little bit of lighting. Like concept art, I suppose. And here I'm doing a little bit of shading, I suppose. Oh, yeah. Because I sort of made my rim light a little bit... I made it some color, but I was starting to shade the highlights, and I used the same color as my rim light, because light can have color, and it's always looks awesome when it's a color instead of just generic white lighting. I also did the reflection light on the nose, as you can see. And rendering the shoulder, rendering the arm. Basically, what I'm trying to do is I'm just trying to get rid of the lines. I'm trying to just paint over the lines and just have nothing but painting. Of course, I keep some of the lines, because I never really fully render those out, because you kind of need them sometimes. Like, I kept them in the face, of course, and I think I kept a lot of them in the hair near the end of it. And I always try to make sure that the lines aren't too... I don't like really thick lines if it's a painterly style. If it's a cartoon style, I absolutely love them. But for a painterly style, I rather try to avoid them. And here I'm detailing the braid a little bit, just getting a shape. I had to look up reference because I don't think I've ever drawn a braid before. And I absolutely love her braid. I'm not going to change that. So now what am I doing? Oh, I'm adding a bit of a blue shadow to the ponytail just by getting a dark blue and putting it in multiply and then merging it. And as you can see, I rendered the metal on the arm. And I did the shoulders now. Getting the little bit of the rim light going. I love metal. I love painting metal. It is so reflective and beautiful. I absolutely love high reflection things. And oh, now I'm doing the reflections on the hair. And doing the... Okay, so what I just did then was a levels contrast. And I think that's Photoshop exclusive, but I got out the levels thing and I just like, oh, make this darker, make this lighter. It's just applies that to the whole layer, basically, and then I merged it. I do that a couple times in this, you'll see. And there I added a little bit more shadows to the chest area because I wanted it to look a little more round. Just feeling kind of flat earlier. And here was my attempt at shading fur. As you can see, I kind of messed around with it a little bit, and in the end I just ended up going for a little bit flat looking because I really need to practice fur more, and I'd rather just do something simpler that I know looks okay than try to do something ambitious that ends up looking really bad. At least that's my preference. I'm gonna try to practice fur more in the meantime. And oh yeah, there I cleaned up the edges of the chest a little bit more, and I'm cleaning up the edges on the mechanical arm. I kind of avoided doing the mechanical arm till last because it's kind of looked hard at first, and then by the time I got done with it, I was like, oh, this looks okay. All right, this was fine. And yeah, for metal, I just do like, oh, one corner is super shiny, right? And then it just gradients into dark. So that's why I focused on doing that. And for the cleaning up the edges mostly, I just go around the entire document just like, oh, does this look bad? Clean it up. Oh, does this still look bad? Clean it up a little bit more. Oh, and another thing that I try to do more is I've read this thing that if you're zoomed out, you should try to stay zoomed out for most of your painting because most of the details will go unnoticed. So I just wanted to focus on getting the major parts, making sure it looks good from far away, and then making sure that it looks good up close. Oh yeah, and basically the way I shade, if you don't know, is I just lay down colors on low opacity, typically either between 20% and 40%, and then I just alt-click and then blend it. That's all I do for blending, is just alt-click, alt-click, alt-click. I kind of struggled a bit with that claw there. I wasn't really sure how to fix it, and I just figured okay, I shouldn't waste time. If I struggle with something, I will try it to get it for a little while, but if overall I'm just still not happy with it, I'll just move on. Because there's no point just staring at something that you have no clue how to fix forever and ever and then never finishing the document. Actually, that's why I have like 30 works in progress, is that very reason. Because like, you know how when you do something from a while ago and then by the time you come back to it, your skill is already increased, and then you're like, okay, it would almost be more efficient just to start over than to keep working on this. It's like, just gotta let it go, I guess. Just need to focus on making newer, better stuff instead of trying to fix older stuff. Although I do love doing redraws, but as aforementioned, drink every time I say as aforementioned and you will die. As aforementioned, I usually just try to move on. I love doing draw this agains type things. I do them occasionally. I do them like every couple months. Who knows, maybe someday I'll end up doing it for this one and it'll be a lot better. Hopefully. Hopefully. Just trying to get more contrast on her cheekbone there and making sure that the shadow on her nose is cast a bit more. Oh, what I did just there is I got like a white airbrush, and then I brushed over her mechanical arm, then I did an overlay so that it kept the colors intact, and then I merged it down so that, because that part of the glove would pick up the most light, I believe. And here I'm adding highlights to the hair, just little dabs of white, I suppose. Oh, I just redid the contrast again, and redid the leggings. I kind of wanted, by the end of this, I boost up the colors a little bit so that it's almost more colorful than how she looks in game. And I did kind of want to try to keep the colors comparatively muted to my regular stuff because I absolutely love splashing color on everything, but in the game, she has kind of muted color scheme, like a dark olive green and the dark blue hair and the dark, red leggings, but oh, and here I was trying to fix the shoulder because some of my friends said, oh, hey, this looks kind of off, and I suppose it did, so I tried to fix that, just by duplicating the layer and then selecting it with the lasso tool and then scooting it out a bit and just filling in the holes, I guess. And here I'm going back to the glove and I'm finally trying to paint it. And just by trying to, like, outlining the thing, like, okay, this looks like a beast, outline. And then I go back with my highlight and just highlight it and then shadow it and then blend it. There we go. There's the boosted colors. That looks a lot better to me. Oh, and then there I got another overlay. I use overlay tons. I got another overlay and I put it on top of her so that her highlights would stick out a bit more. And what you just saw there was me going back to the opening of that document for that day and then just comparing it with what I have now, because sometimes I'll just end up over-rendering something to the point where it looks worse than what it was before. So I just always try to check, like, okay, as long as it's going better than what it was, then I'm making progress. It's just sort of like a reassuring thing, I suppose, that I have a nasty habit of doing. Kind of need to stop it, I guess. I don't know. It's not like I waste too much time doing that. I usually just waste time doing details no one will notice. And there I'm doing the outline of the legs a little bit, the rim light. Oh, and here I'm trying to clean up the glove a tad more. I'm just like, nope, still don't know how to do it. Still got no clue what I'm doing. Story of my life. Yeah, now I'm just cleaning up the glove. Like I said, I wanted it to look like a clenched fist. Because I totally went off model, just so you know. I tried to base it on the glove in the reference, but it was just so difficult. So I just kind of like, you know what? It's fine. I'll just do it myself. And I think it turned out okay. I think it looks like a clenched fist. Close enough, right? Yeah, that's right. Close enough. And now I'm just doing the rim light so that it sticks out a bit more. And then here in a second, I will... Oh, yeah, getting the edges of the metal as aforementioned. Highlights are very, very important to me. And what I just did there is I got the color from the leggings and I just brushed over the metal part so that it looked it was reflecting the color accurately. I think it looked a lot nicer since I did that. And here I'm just cleaning up the edges of the hair because I thought it looked a little too liney still. And I blended it a bit more, tried to get rid of those lines. And that's about it. If I left out something important that you want me to talk about, please tell me. Because this is my first attempt at this, and I think I could have probably said some more, but I don't know what. And there she is. Thank you for watching.